Hello, everyone. My next guest is Michael Montero. Michael Montero writes for The Ring magazine, Boxing Monthly magazine, and is a regular guest on several national sports radio shows. Beyond his journalistic work, Montero has done hosting, commentary, and unofficial media scoring for live fights cards. He sits on the divisional ratings committee for several publications. Enjoy the show, everybody. We're live. Michael Montero, how's it going, man?
Good. How you doing?
Good. I'm doing very good, actually. All things considered, with all this virus and quarantine and self-isolation, I feel like
Yeah.
this is sort of a, I don't know. I'm ashamed to say, but it's sort of a blessing that everyone's at home and everyone's just have nothing to do but to be at home and put out content. And
Yeah.
I'm just kind of utilizing this opportunity and reaching out to people like yourself and asking you to be on my podcast because I know none of y'all gonna have an excuse anymore to be on my show.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, man. I think that guys like yourself, guys like myself, we're actually the ones putting out the content right now in the boxing world, right?
Exactly.
So fights and the networks aren't doing anything for us. So these kind of conversations and everything, it's kind of keeping the ball rolling
I
and
know,
keeping the
man.
positive energy, right? Which we
What do you
need.
exactly that content and what do you think about that? How come networks are still failing to put out good quality, entertaining content? Is that because it's just such a short time span and they usually don't plan so quickly? Like, what's the reason?
Yeah.
Where's the content? Where's the entertainment? The fresh one.
Yeah, I think it's a lack of, well, for the new people like the zone, it's a lack of experience in the
Hmm.
boxing game and understanding that even if before a global pandemic happens, there's going to be lulls in the schedule. And you
Hmm.
have to have that shoulder programming. One thing HBO boxing did a great job of for years was having shows like I'm trying to what was the name? Legendary Nights was the
Hmm.
name of the series that they had, where they had like Gotti Ward and Bo Galata and all these great fights,
Hmm.
Chavez Taylor, right? So they had that kind of shoulder programming that they could put on during a lull in the schedule.
Hmm.
The zone has nothing right now. I mean, at least Showtime
Hmm.
has some classic fights that they've been showing. Like last night, they showed the Corrales Castillo fights 1 and 2. They
Right.
showed Vasquez Marquez, those fights a couple
Hmm.
weeks back. I know ESPN's been showing some classic fights. So some of the networks are showing classic fights, but like the
Hmm.
shoulder programming, there's
Hmm.
nothing there. And I've been saying for a while that some of these networks need to pick up some podcasts. There's a lot of great boxing podcasts out there. There's some that aren't so great, but
Hmm.
there's some really, really good ones, right?
Right.
And I think these networks going forward, maybe this is an opportunity now where they see, okay, we can pick up some of the shoulder programming. And even if, let's say, PBC on Fox, let's say they pick up a podcast and just put it on their YouTube channel, that's a
Hmm.
huge opportunity for them. So that might be something that changes in the game going forward.
Especially considering the fact that even though things might get better with coronavirus, they all say about the second wave. Maybe it's not the first time
Oh, yeah.
that we're doing this, or not the last time that we're being, isolated at home. So they need to be ready for that. And but yeah, so you'd say podcasting would be the one thing. I'm trying to brainstorm. Like, we're all criticizing networks for not doing anything, but like, really, what can you do? Like, what else can you come up with besides just putting people into the Zoom screen and make them talk?
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
I'm wondering, what else can you do?
Well, you think about it, if you have content from actual boxing people, the thing with the boxing media right now is
Hmm.
it's not, newspapers are dying, magazines are dying. One of the magazines I write for just announced that we're going away. The
Uh,
content is
Wait, what
online.
was that?
Boxing Monthly.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I heard about
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
Boxing Monthly magazine. Our last issue will be next month, and that's it.
Yes, I for
So
some reason thought you talking about the ring. Anyways, please
the
go
ring's
carry on.
good for now.
Yeah,
And the reason why the ring is thriving is because the ring does a lot of digital
digital. Yeah,
content and
yeah.
does streaming of fights. We put on all kinds of material like weigh-ins and all that kind of stuff. So that's the wave of the future. And I
Hmm.
think that if you can provide that content in digital platforms on apps,
Hmm.
that can help the next time. Look, there's going to be pandemics like this in the future. I think this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. Things like
Hmm.
this, we're so interconnected now. Like people travel internationally all the time, and these things can spread so fast. This coronavirus thing, it basically took over the world in 2 months, not even two
Yeah.
months. So who's to say something like this doesn't happen again? So
Hmm.
I think now you're going to see people planning for the future more, and not just in boxing, but in all sports, all
Hmm.
entertainment.
Yeah, man. So that's what I'm also thinking. But it's definitely going to bring some change into the industry as well. In any case, this podcast is about you. It's about Michael Montero, and I would like
Wow.
to talk about you because when I was trying to find some information. All right, we're
By the way,
drinking beer,
I'm going to
sponsored.
interrupt for a quick second. This is my first beer in 76 days. So we're going to celebrate. I just finished a training program today. I'm going to crack this, but continue, sir. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
That's fine. I'm actually pretty
Like
stoked that you. I can
a
I
cheap
can
plug for a Peroni beer here.
I can't imagine how exciting this is for you right now to
Oh my God.
to have that first sip of ice cold beer.
Oh my God. This is going to be so great. I've been waiting for this. I just did a brutal run outside, and that's
So what
why my
exactly?
throat's a little
Yeah.
sore.
What's with the training? What is it? What do you do?
Oh,
What's with the 72 72 days and all that?
yeah. So it's called 75 Hard. Look it up.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hashtag 75 Hard. And it's 75 straight days, 2 workouts a day, a diet, no alcohol, no sweets. You actually have to read 10 pages of a self-help book a day. It's more of a discipline and mental strength program than a training
Uh-huh.
program. The
Uh-huh.
physical training, that's the easy part, really.
Well, for
It's
you,
all
yeah.
the other things. Drink a gallon of water a day. It's all these different rules, but it's
Nice.
put on by a guy named Andy Frisella. And
Okay.
he is an entrepreneur, runs several different companies. He's a motivational speaker. Used to have a great podcast called the MF CEO Project, which I
Hmm.
highly recommend. It's
Hmm.
awesome, especially for young men in an age where I think a lot of young men are being passed by in our society, not paying attention to men anymore. It's almost kind of vogue and cool to shit on boys, young boys now.
Hmm.
So I think it's a great podcast for young men, but everyone. It was actually my fiance who put me onto it. So
Interesting.
so it's men and women. But he has a new podcast out now called Real AF, where he just talks about all the bullshit in the world. He's a no nonsense kind of guy. Anyway,
Uh-huh.
I wanted to do this program. It
Uh-huh.
just so happens, I picked the shittiest time ever to do it because we're in the middle of a pandemic. The gym's closed up halfway through it, so I had to get really creative. But we finished it today, so salute.
Congratulations, man.
Cent'anni.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
I'm gonna drink some water for you.
Water is good too. I've had a gallon or so of that already today. So, oh man, that tasted good. Oh yes. All right, sorry. Quick tangent. We can get back to
all,
boxing now.
no, it's all cool, and that's the thing. Like, I don't only want to talk about boxing, but just about your life in general. I know that there's so much more to you than just boxing. Speaking of the challenge in the podcast, I just bought this book by Jocko Willing called.
Oh, I love Jocko.
Oh yeah, I was about
He's
to
the
ask you,
man. Yeah.
bro. Damn.
Yeah.
So he has this thing that's called discipline equals freedom,
Yep.
and it's such a cool concept because it's sort of contrary to itself. You think that discipline actually, uh, not gives you that freedom because you're limiting yourself in certain ways by that discipline. But this whole philosophy is more about, when you are limiting yourself and when you are staying on point, and that actually gives you that mental freedom. That gives you more. I guess it empowers you more. What do you think about that?
I completely agree. I think that people actually crave discipline, and it's something that once you master it, it's a
Hmm.
skill. It really is a skill. Once you master it, your life just gets better, and you'll find that if you live day to day and you're kind of stuck day to day, you don't see anything changing. You're like nothing's happening. But month to month, year to year, you start looking back. You're like, holy shit, I was
Hmm.
here last year. Now I'm here. Now I'm here, and you see that build. And that comes from discipline. It's doing
Right.
simple little things, little building blocks. It really does build up to big things.
Do you have any sort of rules internally, like besides the 75-day challenge, on the day-to-day life? Do you maintain some sort of discipline? And if yes, then what exactly do you do?
Well, there's several guys I look to for that kind of stuff. Jocko is one of them. Andy Frisella is another guy. I don't know if you've heard of Jordan Peterson.
Yeah,
He has a book, 12 Rules for Life, that I actually read during this program I just did.
he's
Awesome
from
book.
Toronto, where I am right now.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I forgot he is from, yeah, you're in Toronto now,
yeah. I'm now
right?
in
Okay.
Canada, proud
Okay.
Canadian.
I did. Yeah. But where were you before? You were somewhere else.
So I'm from Kazakhstan,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
when I was 17, I went to California to
That's okay.
study English, graduate from school, worked there for 5 years, and got my master's degree and all of that. So worked, and I just couldn't get the work visa that would allow me to work more.
America.
So yeah, so I was
We
like,
love
okay.
turning away talent. I don't. We need to fix our system. It's so stupid. I've run into so many people like you that are educated, qualified, want to stay in America, and we turn you guys away to other countries. So I don't get it, but I can rant on that for an hour.
Yeah, well, now Canada has my talent, so there you go.
I saw so many people come to, living in LA, you see so many people come to like UCLA and schools like that from China, from India, from other parts of the world. And they come on a, education visa or whatever, and then they get their degree, and then we're like, yeah, go home now. It's like, what? Keep that talent here. What are you doing? You're sending that talent away.
And the crazy thing is that I got to Canada solely based of my American experience. So because when you need to get to submit documents to Canada, you have to prove that you know the language, that you have a bachelor's, you have a master's, and you have certain years of work experience. And so all of that was given to me by the United States. I mean, I paid for most of it, but other things were provided to me still by just America as a society, as a culture, and all of that, right? So America still invested things in me, at least on the intangible scale. And then I take all of that and I bring it to Canada.
To our competitor.
So that's well, yeah. So I mean, it's a cool program by Canadians just to get all the talent. And I'm an accountant by trade. I'm not even that high of a return on investment. But imagine all that IT people who get those six-figure salaries and doing startups and millions of dollars just
and hackers
come to Canada.
A lot of them go back home and become hackers.
They go back to Russia.
Hack into our shit. It's true. It's true.
Yeah. But yeah, so good for Canada.
Yeah. How do you like Toronto? I've only been up there once.
I love everything about it. It's just the weather, man. After 9 years in California, it's just
you get spoiled.
Brutal, man. Yeah, I get spoiled. But it's just even for my city in Kazakhstan, it's still super cold here. It's still cold. Like I'm still like quarantine, no quarantine. I'd still be sitting home right now. And I was working from home for the longest time for my company, which actually is in America. And yeah, so I would just be sitting at home anyways.
Yeah.
So other than that, it's beautiful during summer. Like I'm really looking forward to it. I heard
the summers are great there.
Yeah. It's very like sports oriented city. There is some boxing here too. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to introduce myself to as many people as possible. I already had some guests here from local boxing scene on my podcast. Went to some shows. It's pretty cool. I love it. I feel like Toronto has a good. There's a huge opportunity to do boxing in Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
So really hoping for that. Went to Montreal. Montreal is really huge on boxing too.
Yeah.
It's even colder.
The boxing capital of Canada.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. And the fans there are hardcore. But it's so cold there. It's even colder in Montreal and in Toronto. I don't know, man.
You're closer to the water.
Yeah, I need to really get used to it. But yeah, other than that, people are friendly. Everything's cool. Yeah. I love it. Definitely visit it. Check it out. Let me know if you're coming over. We'll have a beer or something.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man.
Speaking of that.
Yeah, go ahead. But yeah, Jordan Peterson, man. So I'm assuming your room is all clean.
Yeah, well, Tiffany, my fiance, does most of that now. She makes the bed and does all that stuff. But
what do you do if she's doing the podcast tech and she does the
I build the house. We came out here to Atlanta. Yeah. And I bought this house is probably 60 years old and basically stripped it down to the studs, and I've rebuilt it over the last year and a half.
I was following you on that because you were posting some pictures of your remodeling of the house and all of that. So that was pretty cool. It's all by yourself.
Yeah, pretty much, man. That's why I always look so exhausted right now. It's you talk about discipline and everything else. I don't talk about a lot of this stuff on my profile all the time, but right. I have so many things going on in my personal life, with my family and everything else. My mother lives 4 hours away from here, and she has health issues. So there's just a lot going on in my personal life and my family that I don't know how I find time in the day to do all this stuff. I have a day job, a regular day job. That pays the bills. And then with boxing, fortunately, I make a good supplemental income from boxing as well. And every free minute I have that I'm not training or something, I'm working here on the house. I mean, I'm coming to you from a studio that I built. And this is ultimately why I left LA. I couldn't have this in LA.
Mm-hmm.
What's great about LA is I had access to all the fights, the gyms, the
Right.
fighters, which I mean, you can't buy that. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But here, I could build a studio, so I can basically control my own universe here. And my goal is, at least for the next few years, is to kind of build up my brand and everything else, my show and all that. And
Mm-hmm.
then who knows? Maybe I'll end up back in LA. Maybe it's New York. I don't know. And will I
So,
die in Atlanta? Probably not.
so
Probably not.
actually, well, by the way, I'm hearing that Atlanta is booming right now in terms of the culture and the music scene
Yeah,
and the hip hop industry. Like it's becoming like the new Hollywood, as far as what I'm hearing.
television.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was part of the reason why we chose Atlanta. We looked at a few different cities. So when I got engaged in last year, just over a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
me and my fiance, we looked at a few different cities because she does not want to raise kids in LA. She's like, hell no, not raising kids in LA.
Uh-huh.
Okay, fine. So we looked at different cities, and I like Chicago. It's one of my
Uh-huh.
favorite towns
Uh-huh.
because it's like a big city, but not too big. It still feels like, a town. It doesn't feel like LA or New York. It's
Right.
more like a Toronto. You know what I'm saying? Where
Yeah.
it's big, but not too big.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how Atlanta is too. We looked at Dallas, but Atlanta has a media presence, a really, really
Mm-hmm.
growing media presence. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought, there's really zero boxing community here. What if I was on the ground floor to try to help start building
Mm-hmm.
boxing here? So that's my ultimate goal, to while I build my brand here, is to get involved in the commission and see if I could bring more
Mm-hmm.
fights here. We got Trevante Davis here, trying to get Top Rank to bring some shows here.
Mm-hmm.
Different promoters. I've talked to anybody I can. Hey man, you need to come here. We just had a freaking Super Bowl. They've
Mm-hmm.
had Olympics here. They've had
Right.
Super Bowls here. What the hell are you doing? Get Deontay Wilder here. Deontay Wilder comes here and parties all the time. All the
Nice.
strip clubs, they all know Deontay very
Maybe
well.
that's why he lost, probably.
Well, he does like to come here and have a good time. I'll just put it to you that way. It's
Okay.
only about a 2-hour drive. I think like 2 hours from where he's from.
Alabama?
Yeah. So this is like for the South, basically, this is the one city that exists in the South, the one big city. That's it.
All right.
So unless you consider Dallas, I guess Dallas would be the South. So Texas, but Texas is its own thing.
Yeah.
Other than Texas, it's Atlanta. That's it. That's the one. So everyone around here drives to Atlanta, hangs out. But
anyway. When I realized that you're moving out of LA, I was like, what the hell? Like, why?
Everyone was.
But then I was like, oh, he's doing that thing that everyone's talking about, but no one does. Like, oh, like screw LA, just move somewhere like where it's less expensive and just do your thing there. And you're the first person who actually who I follow does it. You're actually doing this right now, and I'm looking at you right now. You mentioned you have your studio, and you wouldn't be able to do this in Los Angeles, pretty much because everyone's living in these expensive ass apartments that you have to like pay $2,000 or even more for rent, and you don't get any space for that. Forget about buying a house there. I mean, yeah, for a couple of meals for like $1.5 million or whatever, or if you're lucky, you can get $900,000 somewhere like in the valley or whatever. So
yeah.
I'm
wants
actually
to live in the valley. Shit.
So I was like, okay, like I got so excited, like basically just I was excited to follow you and see how it's gonna work out. And then I don't know how I got that information. Maybe I read it on your Twitter replies or anything like that. You're trying to I remember you saying that you want to start this scene of boxing in Atlanta. So I'm super stoked about it. And then I think you posted a picture of your house from the outside. And that mansion is gigantic. I did not I don't know. Like I was just like, whoa! Like this is like a house. Like how they would portray a house like in the 70s. Like a real house.
Yeah, it's pretty big, man. I probably overdid it, but I'll put it to you this way, man. I owned a condo in LA, like a tiny little shoebox in Koreatown, right?
Okay.
And that's a working class neighborhood. There's crime there. It's not the worst part of LA, but it's certainly not the best part of town.
Yeah,
right?
I've been there. Yeah, many times.
Lots of car theft, lots of rape, just lots of craziness. But I sold that condo in that type of neighborhood, and I bought a house here in one of the best neighborhoods in Atlanta, some of the best schools in the state.
Damn.
For $250,000 less. $250,000 less than I sold my condo for in LA. It doesn't make any sense, man. I have half an acre of land here. The house is like 3,500 square feet, or maybe a little more than that, actually. And then I just added a garage. I just built a garage. I still
Uh-huh.
got to finish it.
Uh-huh.
But like, just to have that here, it's insane. It's just
Yeah.
insane. You know, I could never have this in LA. So that's part of why I did it. But then also, yeah, I mean, my plan is in stages. And right now
Mhm.
it's getting the house together,
Mhm.
getting married, doing all that stuff. But starting at the end of this year into next year, I want to start getting into the commission. And I've already talked to a few folks about possibly getting involved, scoring some fights, starting there, and then building myself up to
Mhm.
see if we could change some things to get some fights here, because this market's wide open. I feel
Mhm.
like a mobster going to a brand new city where there's no other mobsters there. And, you know, it's like, holy shit, this town's wide open.
Have you seen Lilyhammer on
No,
Netflix?
no.
Have you seen Sopranos?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, of course you did. And what's his name? Not Polly, the other one. So Silvio?
Silvio,
Yeah.
Silvio Dante, yeah.
Basically, it's on Netflix. It's a show based on
Oh
Silvio
yeah, I
Dante,
heard
played by
about
Silvio
that.
Dante. So it's the same exact character, the same exact actor. It's just he has a
Okay.
different name, obviously, but he just goes to Norway for the witness protection program, and it's like
Norway?
Norway, yeah,
Holy
like
shit.
the place called Lilyhammer.
Okay.
And yeah, so everyone is a Nordic. The whole show is half Swedish or half Norwegian, like in terms of language. And so he basically starts a crime family there with this
That's
Swedes.
hilarious.
I'm surprised you haven't seen it. I mean, it's amazing.
No, but you know what? That might be the next one on the list. Is that Netflix?
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Oh, dude. All right. If we're still on lockdown, that'll be the next one I
Yeah,
check out.
and it's just
Yeah,
Silvio,
man.
like with the whole mannerisms and all.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, that guy had never acted. His name's Steven Van Zandt. He had never acted before The Sopranos. Never once.
Yeah, he's a musician. He's like Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah. With his guitarist or something, and then he has his own thing going on too. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the show, The Sopranos, and I feel like I watched it like at least once every year. But yeah, his character is the best.
I still think it's the best show ever. I love that.
Me
show.
too.
It's very realistic. And, you know, people ask me about that. How realistic is the show? Is some of the mob stuff a little played up and everything? Yes, of course. But the dynamic of it all, you know, the modern mafia, it's pretty damn realistic. It really is. So
yeah, but it's just, you know, what's cool about that show? It's just like, yeah, it's a mobster show, but it's really not about the mafia. You know,
it's about
what
family.
I mean? It's about family, right? And it's just that's like that sort of angle is just so cool. I just recently rewatched Mad Men, I think for the third time in my life. Have you seen Mad Men?
I haven't seen the whole series. That's another one I need to watch.
Matthew Weiner is the producer of the show. He actually worked on Sopranos as well, along with David Chase. And so you can see a lot of dynamics in terms of the plot and, you know, the tricks that they're using, you know, the psychology and all of that, the character centric, you know, the whole plot is just very Sopranos, and it's just so high quality. I love it. Definitely check it out, man.
All right.
But yeah, so it's exciting. So you came to Atlanta to conquer the city. Once you're gonna finish your business here with the house and with your family and all, you're gonna go on the attack. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, you know, I moved to LA when I was 30. I had no job. I had no money.
Where are you
I
from?
had a few $1,000s in the bank, but I had been laid off from my job. I had no prospects. I had always wanted to go to LA, and I just thought, what the fuck? So I had my car at that time was a PT Cruiser. I had like a soccer mom car. It was like, I think a 2001 PT Cruiser or something. This is like 2009 when I drove out there. And literally I drove out there with my clothes, and I had a computer, and that was it. And I drove out there, and I slept on a friend's floor for 6 months. And from there, I built myself up.
So let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
Where are you from?
Oh, yeah. I'm originally from Detroit. I grew up in Detroit. So I understand what you're saying about the cold weather in Toronto. I basically grew up in that. And that's where I grew up. I was in the Marine Corps. And in the Marine Corps, I moved around to a few different places.
So tell me about the Marine Corps. How did that decision come about?
My best friend went into the Marine Corps, and I kind of followed him in. And at the time I was kind of a street kid, and I was doing some petty crimes and scams. And, you know, I grew up around that kind of thing. So I was kind of, you know, a two-bit hustler kind of guy. And what was getting into some trouble. And I think that, you know, we talked about at the top of the show, discipline, craving discipline. I think there was part of me that craved that. And my parents had me when they were very young. My parents were teenagers when they had me.
Hmm.
And I was actually born in a trailer park. I grew up in a trailer park. So,
That's like a setup for 8 Mile movie right there.
yes, an
Yeah.
Italian name. Yeah,
Italian.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm part Eastern European too. So an
Oh, there you
Italian,
go.
Eastern European.
So you're the
Uh,
homie. Okay.
yeah, 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 exactly. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's basically what I grew up around, and it was interesting. My childhood was an interesting mix. So I lived in predominantly Black neighborhoods most of
Hmm.
my childhood, but also at times, my really early years was predominantly Italian neighborhoods. So I grew up with a very heavy Italian American influence and a heavy African American influence, actually.
Hmm.
And yeah, anyway, going into the Marines was just kind of trying to get out of that neighborhood,
Hmm.
out of some of the downward spiral I was in, and
And then what year was it?
direction. What year?
Yeah.
Shit. I graduated high school in 97. I went
Uh-huh.
into the Marines in 98.
Okay.
Very, very early 1998.
Okay.
And then I actually got out just before 9/11.
Right.
I remember that because it was very surreal to finish up my contract and all that, my active duty,
Hmm.
uh, just before 9/11 happened. And
Hmm.
I was on this thing called inactive reserve, where
Hmm.
basically they can call you up if the shit really hits the fan. And I was on that list for a couple of years, and part of me wondered, are they going to call me up? But it never
Hmm.
happened.
It's funny
Um,
because I'm on that list too, even though I never served. But in
really?
Kazakhstan, they put you on that list. You have to like go and get your military documents. Yeah, I didn't serve because I was a student, and then I was like in the master's program and all of that abroad. So basically, and by the age of 27, you're not eligible for military service. So
Okay.
that, but they still give you like the documents to make sure that you are as a reservist, so that you're in the reserve.
So they can call you
So
if they
they
need
can
you.
call you. Yeah.
Yeah, I was on that for a few years after my active duty was done.
Hmm.
But fortunately, I wasn't called up. But several of the guys I served with that became really good friends
Hmm.
ended up going overseas. A couple of them didn't make it back. It was
Oh.
a tough time, man.
Hmm.
But that experience, that was actually the first time I saw California. I was briefly stationed in 29 Palms, California, which is in the middle of the desert. You're in
Hmm.
the middle of nowhere. You're 2 hours, I think like 2 hours between Vegas and Palm Springs and kind of
Hmm.
that area. It's close to Joshua Tree. I don't know if you ever heard of Joshua Tree
Nope.
Park. Okay.
Hmm.
It's just the middle of nowhere. And
Okay.
basically, that base, they are preparing you for fighting in the Middle East and North Africa.
Hmm.
That's basically what they are prepping us for. So,
Hmm.
all before the second Iraq war, before 9/11, we ended up going to Afghanistan. I
Hmm.
think they kind of knew that's where things were headed, and we were going to end up going anyway before we
Hmm.
did,
Hmm.
because they were really preparing us.
Hmm.
Um, when I was in, I think we had just finished up in Bosnia and some of that stuff, but they were
Hmm.
really prepping everyone to be going to the Middle East. So I did a lot of that sort of training, training in the mountains out there. But there was one weekend where I didn't have a car, but one of my friends had a car.
Hmm.
And we were like, dude, let's go to LA. Fuck it. So a few of us got together. We were like 19 or some shit.
Fuck it.
But we had one guy had a fake ID. We drove to LA. We found a hotel, and we went to a couple different bars, and everyone kept kicking us out because we were under 21. But
Oh, okay.
finally, we slipped one guy, a bouncer, some extra money, and we ended up having a really good time.
Uh-huh.
And just there was four of us young guys having some beers, hanging out, and that was my first time seeing LA, seeing palm trees,
Hmm.
and the women. Oh,
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, oh my God, I just never seen anything like that.
Tell me
And we
about
weren't
it,
even
man.
at the beach or anything, man. We were just downtown. I'm like, holy shit. So that was my first time seeing LA. So it was 10 years later, I ended up moving there. But
Hmm.
I always kind of was curious about it and wanted to go back. So moving there at 30 with absolutely nothing, people thought I was absolutely crazy.
Yeah, that's
Just
pretty
like
late for like
moving,
30 years old. Like it's probably, I don't know. It's like a huge step to just, drop everything and just go to another city.
it was scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, it was, I've made several bold decisions like that in my life.
Hmm.
And some of them have worked, some of them have not. Some of them have worked, some of them have not. But every time I make a decision like that, people are like, yo, you're crazy. What the hell are you doing? You're an idiot. But in the end, it works out. And moving to LA was the best thing I ever did. I feel like I left at the right time. And now,
why do you think so?
It's gotten so much worse there, man. I've gone back several times for work to cover fights and everything. And like the neighborhood that my place was in, it's just dirtier. There's more homeless. There's more graffiti. It's more trash. The building is in worse shape than when I sold it. I sold at the peak. Everything's gone down a little bit after I sold, man. I sold that place.
That was what, 2017, 18?
2018.
Yeah.
Spring of 2018, bro. Absolute peak. It was perfect timing. For once in my life, I had perfect timing. It's the only time. But so look, LA is not going anywhere, and like I said, 10 years from now, I might move back there. I might move to New York. Who knows? I might move to London. Wherever the opportunities are, that's where I'm going to go. But I think right now there's an opportunity here where I'm at, and we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Okay, so you moved to LA. You were 30 years old. How did you end up being a writer and a boxing journalist?
So I had been blogging about boxing actually for years before that. There was a site called Eastside Boxing, which was kind of a fan site where anyone could post articles and stuff. And I started posting there probably 2001, 2002. Something like that. And, I could barely formulate a sentence. I had no education at all. I still can almost half form a sentence sometimes. But I've gotten better. But so I had experience writing and expressing my opinion, and I had done a little bit of acting, which has actually helped me in boxing.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Yeah. Like then there's the whole acting thing.
We could talk about that too.
Okay.
Because in LA, that really came into play. Like I didn't expect some of the things that happened to happen. But
so what came first, acting or boxing? Or it kind of was
boxing.
Like
Boxing. Okay. Yeah. I've loved boxing forever, and I've loved to train and everything and compete and stuff like that at a small level forever. And, we boxed in the Marines. We did hand-to-hand combat, training and everything in the Marine Corps. So I always enjoyed that. But the way I got involved in LA is in 2010, we had the World Series of Boxing. We had a team in LA called the Los Angeles Matadors. And there was a fighter on the team from Texas. And I'd go to the gyms and I'd train, I'd hang out. One of the guys there at the gym knew him and was from the same town in Texas and was like, hey, man, if you will write, I guess there was a magazine back in Texas that covered the amateur scene. And he's like, if you write about this guy, we can get you credentialed to these fights. And I was like, what the hell is a credential? I had no idea what that was. What the hell is that? Okay. So he explained it to me. Yeah, you could be pressed and you could sit, and I'm like, I don't have a degree. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. He's like, your shit. Just go. Do it.
Okay.
So I started doing that. And I started covering the World Series of Boxing, Los Angeles Matadors. And I think they were there for 3 seasons. And I just worked my way up from there.
So anyone helped you with writing? I mean, I know it's like writing for press. I mean, that's probably super difficult.
Yeah. Some of my articles got ripped. You know how people online are. So before Twitter, when I would post some articles and some blogs and stuff, people would be like, who the fuck is this guy? There used to be sites where like there was the comment section, and they in the comment section, they'd be like, dude, your grammar sucks. And, people, there was trolls way before Twitter. People talk. So I've been used to people talking shit forever. And I was like, okay. So I put a semicolon next time here, and then I put a period there. And I just kind of learned by screwing up. That's just kind of how I learned stuff, by screwing up. So I just built myself up that way. And over the years, I think there have been a few people that I guess have seen some potential in me, and they've taken me under their wing and given me opportunities. And anytime I've had a chance, the smallest opportunity, I crushed it. I put 100% in. I did a lot of work for free, of work for free. And that really is where I cut my teeth. I paid my dues. And I got to a certain point where I'm like, I ain't doing free work no more. Fuck that. You're going to pay me now. And, that's where I'm at now. It's not like I'm a millionaire, and I'm, in boxing, you don't make a lot of money.
Right.
But, I'm so fortunate, so blessed right now to be working with Ring. And before that, up until recently, Boxing Monthly and some other platforms where I can write for a very reputable publication and, show what I can do, show how much I've grown. I still have a lot of growing that I need to do, but I've done a lot of growing and I can get paid for it and people respect what I'm doing. So that's awesome.
What can you recall a like this is it moment for you in boxing media? Like, oh, like I'm it, like I'm there, like I'm in the business.
Yeah. The first Canelo Golovkin fight, which after that fight, I don't know if you're aware of when me and Bob Bennett had a back and forth. Bob Bennett's the head of the commission there.
The heated reporter, man. I was a huge fan.
The heated reporter. And so that was a huge moment for me that I didn't realize was a huge moment. In that moment.
So explain.
So after that fight, I, like most people, thought the scores were bullshit, but particularly one score with Adelaide Bird. I think she had it 118-110 for Canelo. And in a post-fight press conference, nobody was talking about it. Now, a couple of the senior reporters that have full-time jobs and don't want to lose them, they were asking questions when the cameras were off, when the lights were off, when the microphones were off. As soon as the cameras turn on, whoop, they're quiet. Yep. Because they don't want to piss people off and lose their job. And I was like, man, fuck this shit. So I asked a question that people don't remember this, but before I got to Bob Bennett, I actually ripped Oscar De La Hoya. And I actually asked him, what are you going to do about this? And so when Bob Bennett got up to the stage, I was like, oh, me, I got a question. And the girl who was handing out the microphones for Golden Boy, she was like, I ain't giving you the mic. And it was actually some other dude. I can't remember who it was because it was so dark. He ran up to me and said, bro, here's a mic, go. He just kind of came up behind me. He's like, here's a mic, go. I have no idea who it was. That's still to this day. I'll probably never know who it was. But it was like my guardian angel. Yeah. This girl did not want to give me the mic. She's like, no, you're done. I ain't letting you back on the mic. Because, I don't know if Oscar winked or what. But this guardian angel comes up he's literally behind me, taps me on the shoulder. Here's another mic. And then I go off on Bob Bennett. And all I was doing was telling the truth. And I wasn't trying to create a moment or go viral. I didn't even know what the hell that shit was. Right. Yeah. I was literally just saying like, dude, this is not the first time she's had a terrible scorecard. This is one night where everyone was watching boxing. Everyone. Right? Because people pay attention to boxing, the mainstream, once or twice a year. Yeah. And that once or twice a year, you can't screw it up. And you screwed it up. So now what's going to happen? Everyone's going to say, oh, this is why boxing sucks. This is why I watch MMA. But that kind of shit, right? Which you saw a bunch of celebrities tweeting that stuff. Yeah. But anyway, so I reamed Bob Bennett. And, to his defense, we've talked a bunch of times since then, and he's a cool guy, and he's been very, very good with me.
All right, and then what happened?
So that moment, unbeknownst to me, went viral, and it was on national news. It was on the local news there in Vegas. It was all over national radio. It made several MMA podcasts. The entire time driving home from Vegas to LA, my phone was just just buzzing nonstop. It got to a point where my phone like kind of froze because there was so many notifications. So like my Twitter met the notification limit. It stopped for the day. My YouTube, all that. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I had no idea. I basically just told them how I felt. Yeah. But then when I got home that night and logged into everything and saw what was going on, I was like, holy shit. And people are sending me clips like, dude, you're on the news here. You're on this. You're on this show. You're on that show. I'm like, what? I was on Spanish language TV. I was on Russian language TV. So that changed my life in boxing.
So let me tell you, when I listened to it, and again, that was before everything happened to me, like in boxing. I was just a fan, just watching at home, absolutely no association with anything. But I was still, following all of you guys on Twitter. And I was just like one of the Twitter boys. And when you said that, I was like, oh my God, Montero, you're the man of the people. Tell us how we feel. Tell them how we feel. It's just like such a yes, that someone said that. So we were like all like rooting for it. That was like the moment when like, no bullshit. Like there was,
Yeah. And I just, it was an organic kind of thing where I just basically spoke my mind, my opinion. And there's been a couple moments like that, but that was the first one that really stuck out. And now, because of that, you know, I look back and I've gone back and I've watched that clip. I've listened to some of those clips, and I'm like, man, I could have done it better. I could have asked better questions to Bob Bennett. I could have followed up better, but I didn't understand how big that moment was, and I wasn't as prepared as I should have been, and that it forced me to get better.
Well, you know what? I feel like if you were prepared for it better, maybe you wouldn't actually go viral because you'd sound old textbook. And
maybe
in that moment, you actually just expressed your emotions the same way we were all feeling when that happened.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do, is basically speak for the fans, because I felt like nobody there at the press conference was.
Yeah.
They were all being so, I don't know what the right word is, controlled. Yeah. I felt like they were being controlled, and I'm like, just say what you feel, you know, and that's all I did.
Did you get in trouble at all with anyone? Like, do you now?
Yeah.
Did you lose some friends now? Or what happened? Like,
well, that's happened plenty of times. Yeah, I mean, that's happened. I can't tell you how many times that's happened. It's crazy the way things work in the media, but also just on social media, where if I criticize a fighter from a certain part of the world, I'll be called prejudiced or xenophobic against that group.
Yeah.
And then 5 days later, if I praise a fighter from that same part of the world, I'm called a sellout for those people. You know what I'm saying? It's how it goes. But the more you tell the truth, and I'm fiercely independent minded, like politically, everything. I don't subscribe to either political party or any of that. And the more fiercely independent you are and outspoken you are, the less friends you have, the less your phone rings.
Yeah, man.
You know, there's only a few people in the business that I really, really look up to as far as writers go. You know,
can you name them?
Oh yeah, you know some of these guys. I mean, Doug Fisher, Steve Kim.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, those two guys are my favorite. But there's a couple guys over in the UK, like Mark Butcher. He's awesome. There's several guys that I could point to, but there are very, very few that I feel really just tell it like it is. And the ones that do, it's hard to get ahead in the world, man. You've seen some of these people that have skipped in line really fast, where you're like, who the fuck is this guy? And all of a sudden he's on TV. He's doing PBC on Fox preview shows, or Top Rank on ESPN preview shows. You're like, who the hell is this guy? I don't even know who he is. Yeah. Because he's, shaking hands and doing favors. That's how it goes, man. It's just like Hollywood.
So tell me about Hollywood. How was your experience with being actor?
Good segue.
Great segue right there.
Yeah. Good segue. It's not anything that I planned. It's something that just kind of happened. And I actually, I made some friends in LA that were wonderful people. That one of my boys convinced me. He was like, dude, you're a funny guy. I'm like, me? I'm not funny. I'm serious. He's like, no, you could be funny in like an asshole kind of way, a charming asshole. You know, I'm like, oh, okay. Like a sarcastic, my sense of humor is very sarcastic and kind of dark. Like that's the kind of comedy I enjoy.
I feel like you'd be the great dude to sit at the bar with and drink beer.
Oh yeah. Get me drunk. Trust me, I have a lot of great stories. I can't tell them here on the air, but in person, yeah.
I feel like I agree with that guy. You can be super funny if you're drunk. I don't even know you, but I feel like you're the kind of guy that like you could get into some trouble.
Yeah, well, my mouth gets me in trouble. My fingers get me in trouble on Twitter. I've tweeted some things before. I'm like, I shouldn't have tweeted that. I've had to learn the hard way. And I'm trying to get better, because
I feel like your Twitter game is on point, though.
I'm trying, man, because with Twitter, I try to have fun and troll. I try to tweet some funny stuff.
Right.
People are just too damn serious, man. Have some fun. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, my profile picture is the Tiger King guy. I'm the Tiger King guy.
And
right?
Carol Baskin is your name.
Yeah. So like I'm making fun of myself. But amazingly, there are people like, oh, look at you making it about yourself. I'm like, really, motherfucker? I'm just having fun.
Yeah.
But, that's just how people are. But anyway, the reason why I bring all that up is one of my friends convinced me to do some live improv.
So there's a place that's a tough one.
Oh, yeah. There's two in LA that I did. There's Second City, which is actually out of Chicago, but they have one in Los Angeles. And a lot of those people are on like Saturday Night Live, those kinds of shows. And there's another one called The Groundlings, which is famous there in LA in that improv comedy scene. And I went through that whole program, and it was the same thing. Like it was my first time being around people like that. These people
Mm-hmm.
grew up very different than me. If you're around like people in Hollywood, they usually grow up with money. They usually
Mm-hmm.
grow up quite privileged
Mm-hmm.
and very educated. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
these guys are vegetarians, never lifted a weight before, these kind of guys.
Yeah.
So I walk in there and they don't know if I'm going to mug them or hug them, they don't know. So, but it was interesting to kind of learn from a different side of the world
Mm-hmm.
and be around that. But I very quickly excelled at it. I kind of found my niche
Wait, so
for,
you did a good job with the improv? Because I mean,
dude,
improv is the worst thing ever. Like I
it's
tried,
very hard.
I took an acting class back in college, and I think we did like a couple improvs, and I just realized, wow, like, I mean, it's hard because you have to
It's
think on the
very hard
spot, and you have to freaking be funny, and like,
in front of a crowd of strangers.
yeah,
Yeah, I've done several live improv shows on the Groundling stage and the Second City stage in Hollywood in front of, these crowds are maybe 500 people. It's not like it's
right,
thousands of people, but
still a lot, I think.
it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But I actually graduated through Groundling's professional improv program.
Mm-hmm.
They invited me to come to their writers lab. This is the same writers lab that people on Saturday Night Live and these sketch shows
Mm-hmm.
started and trained at.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote a show. I mean, me and like several other people
Mm-hmm.
wrote and produced and starred in a show on their stage there. So like I did things like that where
Mm-hmm.
that's not on TV. So you might not see that. I can
Mm-hmm.
send you a clip,
Mm-hmm.
but that kind of stuff, I didn't realize how much that was going to help me later on in
Mm-hmm.
boxing.
How so?
Because now if I'm interviewing a fighter
Mm-hmm.
and like in that moment with Bob Bennett,
Mm-hmm.
that's improv. I'm not trying to make people laugh,
Right.
but I'm acting in the moment where there's cameras and lights and microphones everywhere. And there's a line of people behind me trying to get in line to ask their stupid questions so they can make a YouTube video. What's your favorite color, Bob? That kind of shit. But I'm trying to ask real questions,
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
I understand the boxing questions, reporters.
Oh my God. They're
It's
so bad.
Yeah,
It's so bad.
It's so bad, but also it's repetitive. It's like one reporter asks a bad question. Okay, screw it. When 50 of them ask the same question and it's bad.
You've seen fighters, right? You've probably seen Triple G in a line at a presser, and there's 50 people.
Exactly.
And he puts on a smile, but he doesn't want to be there. In the back of his mind, he's saying, "Hurry up, motherfucker! I want to get home to my wife and kids. I want to go have lunch." Like he doesn't want to be there. None of them do. But yeah, every fighter comes up and asks the stupidest question, or every interviewer asks the same question. It's like, man, go up there and just talk to this person like a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to him like he's your friend.
And that's what boxers also want. They
absolutely.
Because I think the boxers want to show that they can offer more during like a Q&A than just like, what's your strategy? What are you going to change in the next fight?
What are they going to tell you?
Yeah.
Oh, here's my whole game plan. Make sure my opponent doesn't find out. They can't tell you that. They've got to keep things very stoic, but you can ask them certain things and try to get underneath. And certain fighters are just hard to talk to, right? Like
of course, a lot of fighters are introverts.
Yeah, and some of them have just different energies. Like I interviewed Caleb Plant for a piece I did in Ring late last year, I think. And he was a difficult interview, very guarded and protected, did not want to open up. And I'd ask him questions about, his mother and certain things like that. And he would give very short answers and I'd try to dig and he'd stop it. And then there's other
Caleb
guys
Plant went through a lot of shit recently. And I feel like with him, like I can understand where he is like cautious of like, he doesn't want to make like a light of certain, aspects of his life as well.
Yeah. Well, there's certain, like, his mother had mental illness and, was not mentally healthy. And I think there's certain things related to that he just doesn't want to talk about. And I understand that. I respect that. But then you talk to a guy like Jamel Herring, who is the first second I talk to him, he's just an open book. He's just a wonderful guy. And he'll talk about anything with you. And it's like we've become friends after I interviewed him. And that's happened with several fighters. And, he's a former Marine too. So maybe that's it because he's my brother, right? But he's had tragedy in his life. He had a child die. He had his best friend die. So, but I could ask him anything about that stuff and he'll open book. So fighters, just like all human beings, have different personalities, and you see
Hmm.
that when you talk to them and you interact with them. Some of them are more open than others. That's kind of
Yeah.
the fun part of what I do, though.
What's your favorite? Like you said, it's a fun part. Like, so what exactly do you do besides? So you write and then you do the interviews, right? But you also have your own podcast and you do the video as well. So you're in so many mediums and you're doing so many different things. What thing makes like gives you the best kick out of what you do?
I mean, writing is cool. It's awesome when I can put out an article in Ring, and
Hmm.
we publish in English and in Spanish
Hmm.
throughout Latin America. So it's cool when people in different countries, different parts of the world will post a
Hmm.
picture of my article on Instagram, and I'm like, holy shit, someone in Colombia is reading my article right now. Like, how cool is that? But
Nice.
my favorite thing to do is just talk about the shit. I just love to talk about boxing. So whether I'm interviewing a fighter or analyzing a fight, doing an interview like this, or like
Hmm.
something on the radio,
Hmm.
something on TV, whatever it is, just talking about boxing, that's what I enjoy doing, period.
Man, when I listen to your podcast, I just figure like I'm thinking like, wow, like because you don't have a like usually you don't have like a guest on your personal podcast. It's just you, right? It's and you like do this gigantic monologue about something. I would be always impressed by the fact that you have all this information and you just spit it out nonstop, and you never stop. You can talk about this forever, and I always like admire that. I don't know. It's crazy
You're
when
not the first person to tell me that.
oh yeah.
Yeah, and again, I do think that improv training and some of that kind of acting experience helps
Hmm.
me with that. It's being able to think on your feet, and the doing the podcast, like, because you just started doing this, right?
Well, in English, I basically started this in Russian in June 2019. So a little like in June basically.
So you're
But in
still a
English,
baby.
yeah, I'm still a baby. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. You'll find after doing this for several years,
yeah.
you'll start to find your own rhythm, your own
Hmm.
personal rhythm, your own personal pace.
Hmm.
And then it will be easier to just flow, freestyle, just go with it.
Hmm.
That takes 100 episodes. You know what I'm saying? So,
Hmm.
like, if you go back and watch my first few videos, I sound like an idiot. I still sound like an idiot half the time, but I sounded like a complete idiot back then. It took a lot of practice, a lot of screwing up,
Hmm.
really, to find that rhythm, your own personal speed. And I
Hmm.
think too many people try to do someone else's speed. It's like, no, man,
Hmm.
find your own rhythm, find your own style,
Right.
and then people will start to be drawn to you. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll see. Like I was just thinking about this yesterday. Like this is my podcast. Like it happens so it's kind of weird. I always sort of say that this is not a boxing podcast, but like 90% of my English speaking guests are all in boxing. But I'm trying to diversify and all of that because I want to make this podcast more about just interesting people in general, sort of like Tim Ferriss, Joe Rogan kind of style. You just invite
that's
just cool
cool.
people and talk about stuff. But yeah, I'm still trying to find like a character of the podcast, like what it is. Like I was actually before very against doing this, like recording webcam podcast. I would like always cringe when I would look at that in terms of like the interview, because I was like, well, no, like I want I want the great quality of sound, and I want the actual person in front of me, so that we can really
Yeah,
connect.
yeah,
And so the reason I'm doing this now is like, okay, well, I have an excuse now because everyone does it, right? You cannot do it actually like face to face, person to person. And so I'm actually discovering that it's not that bad. I'm first of all, I have a better angle of my face, like people can actually see me instead of just like this. Like I still don't
right.
have any cameras. And second of all, it's actually it's great. I can connect with people all around the world. I just had a podcast with a person in New York and Los Angeles, and then you're here in Atlanta. So I mean, it's pretty cool. So I don't know. I don't know what this podcast is, but so far it just brings me joy, and just
You'll find it.
yeah, and
Like, I didn't know what the neutral corner was. Like the first few episodes, I was sitting on my couch, just kind of answering some questions, like email questions. And then
mhm,
I talked for 10 minutes and that was it. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just
mhm,
did something. I just
yeah,
put something out there. And after a while, it starts to take shape. It
mhm,
starts to become something. And then So you'll probably 2 or 3 years from now, you'll really, really know. And then you'll look back at these early episodes and you'll be like, ugh. Like that's what I do. I look back at the early ones like, oh my God, that's horrible. But you got to go through that process.
for sure, man, for sure. So Okay, so once you're in Los Angeles, you decided, all right, it's time to move. Like, how easy this decision came to you? Were you like constantly having that on your mind, like, I gotta move out of here, or something like sparked you, like, fuck it, I'm gonna get the hell out of here? Like, something happened. What was that driving factor?
Um, it was a process, but so I've been with my fiance for 6 years,
Hmm.
and when we got engaged, we had talked about she moved in with me about a year before we got engaged. So I was smart. We lived together for like a year. I'm like, okay, we don't want to kill each other. We can move forward with this. And we talked about if we're going to get married and build this future together. She said she didn't want to live in LA. And like, I understand that.
Hmm.
Maybe one day if there's a big job opportunity, if something with boxing brings me back there or somewhere else, maybe we'll
Hmm.
go.
Hmm.
But for like early marriage years and having babies and stuff, she just did not want to do that there. And I understood that. I
Hmm.
saw certain things in LA getting crazier and crazier, things getting more expensive.
Hmm.
It just became harder to have a normal, productive life there. It really
Hmm.
is. It's very difficult. It's a tough place to live, man. Just like New York and other
Hmm.
places like that. It's very,
Hmm.
very expensive. And all my family's on the East Coast. It's
Hmm.
thousands of miles away from my family. I'm 40 right now. I'm going to be
Hmm.
41 in 2 months. So I basically spent my 30s completely alone,
Hmm.
completely away from my family. I might see them once a year. Sometimes it was 2, 3 years before I'd see a family member.
Hmm.
So like that was tough, man. And I started to kind of miss those little things.
Hmm.
And now, like, no one lives in Atlanta, but they're closer. I could fly to Detroit. It's 90 minutes.
Hmm.
It's not 5 hours. You know what
For
I'm
sure, man.
saying? So I
Yeah.
could do like a weekend trip to Detroit, and it's not a big deal. So
Hmm.
I can see family now a lot easier. And it wasn't one thing, it was a collection of things. And like I said, I just felt like, okay, in 2018, I could sell my condo right now for top dollar
Hmm.
and take this money and start something different. And
Still
again, if
impressed by the timing of it, man.
the
You
timing
were
was
spot
beautiful,
on.
bro. It actually, in my building, I think we had 71 units in my building,
Hmm.
and my sale set a record in the building for the highest sale ever.
That's
So I
awesome.
was like, I did all right. And I did
Yeah.
all the renovations myself. When I bought it, it was a fucking dump. Nothing worked. There
Saved
was
a bunch of money.
yeah, I
Yeah.
made pretty good money on it. I had to spend money to make money, but
Hmm.
like because I did all the work myself, it wasn't that much. I was able to
Yeah.
do it. And coming out here with a little bit of cash, it's a position that growing up the way I grew up, everything that I've been through, yeah, I felt like a millionaire. I'm not, but it felt like this is amazing, like I've made it. That's just kind of
Yeah.
the feeling I had. So
That's so cool, man. So now sitting in Atlanta, you know, disregarding the what's happening right now with the quarantine, and once you're gonna settle with your personal life, you get married and finish the house and all of that. What's next for you? You've mentioned that you're gonna hustle with putting boxing in Atlanta. Are there any other projects that you're trying to get into and basically develop?
well, I was I was planning to fight in a tournament this year, maybe doing some masters. So
Uh-huh.
in USA boxing in the amateurs system here, I think if you're 35 and over, you could go into what they call the masters division.
Hmm.
So that's where I'm registered. And there's a tournament, the gym that I train at here,
Hmm.
the guy who runs it is the chairman of USA Boxing Masters Division, national chairman. He's actually a national champion, I think, 3 times. So that's who I spar with and train with a lot. And he
Hmm.
was going to put on a tournament in August that I wanted to fight in. But I don't know if it's going to happen now because of all this
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to keep in shape. I just did this program and
Hmm.
everything. The
Hmm.
only thing is I haven't sparred in forever. So I'm really rusty right now. If I sparred, I'd get my ass whooped because
Hmm.
I'm so, sloppy.
Hmm.
But I was wanting to do that. And, my fiance is not crazy about that. But I told her, let me do this before we have kids. So let me just, and that could be my way of kind of meeting the commission people here,
Hmm.
making those introductions, and then getting into the other side of it and seeing what I could do here. on top of that, it's just building up my show, The Neutral Corner. I want to continue to build that up. I just started bringing guests on, so the last 6 weeks or so, I've had guests on.
Yeah, and you've been a guest on, I guess, like returning guest on the Boxing Rant, one of my favorite boxing podcasts.
Yeah, I've been on there a few times. Yeah, I love the Boxing Rant. I love that because those guys, again, they're not media, so they can say whatever they want. I say whatever I want, but I can't go as far as they go. Like they go all the way.
Oh, whenever it comes out, I just put it on TV right away. I was like, oh my God, this is happening. And now they're all like full video. And it's just hilarious. It's like a comedy show, but with boxing, it's just like, I just laugh so hard. Whatever they're going to come up with, it's just crazy. I mean,
the best part about it is, again, like they make fun of themselves.
Right.
Sometimes they make fun of them. And that's the whole thing, man. Show that humility and sometimes just have fun with yourself.
Yeah.
They talked about shitting his pants. Kenny talked about shitting his pants a couple of weeks ago. Most people would not admit to that. And this dude is talking about shitting his pants on a golf course. That's why it's great. I've never shat my pants. I will say that.
I'm gonna cut it as a promo for this episode.
Yeah.
I never shat my pants.
Hey, never say never. Maybe it'll happen now. Maybe I'll be walking upstairs and I'll shit myself right as soon as we're done recording. But so far, I have not shit my pants. But yeah, man. So just continue building up my show. Now I could take phone calls on my show.
Yeah,
so
I noticed that. That was awesome.
You gotta call in one of these times, man.
All right, man.
And just doing that, and then continue writing for The Ring and building up my profile there. But I know that at some point, if I want to really take this to the next level, I gotta go back where the action is. So look, maybe 5 years from now or so, who knows? Maybe we'll make another move. We shall see.
I'm thinking, New York can be also huge in terms of, it's not necessarily can be Los Angeles, like the Zone's main office in New York right now, and then Madison Square Garden and the commission.
It couldn't hurt.
Yeah.
I like New York, like it just, I'd have to convince my fiance. She doesn't love it.
Yeah.
But Vegas is another one. Like I don't particularly like Vegas. I don't really enjoy Vegas. It's a trailer park in the desert. No disrespect, because I have a lot of great, wonderful friends that live there whom I love. But maybe I haven't seen the best part of it. The only time I've been to Vegas is to cover boxing. So, and some of my friends have actually told me that, like, dude, you need to come out here just for a vacation and let me show you the real Vegas.
Right.
So maybe we'll see.
Well,
but Vegas is another one that's cheap.
Try it out first. Go for a vacation there first.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do that because I shouldn't talk shit about Vegas so much. I should go there. I should have an open mind. But Vegas would be like Atlanta, where it's cheap and it's kind of wide open, But there's boxing there. So that's another one that I've thought about. Maybe that would be another move. We'll see.
But I'm actually very passionate about your passion, so to say, that, to start something in Atlanta. It's very, how do you say it? Frontier, whatever, trying to get something somewhere, conquer something, establish something,
that's
build
my
legacy.
Personality.
Yeah,
and like I'm not very good at doing marketing and doing networking. I hate networking and kissing ass. Like, I just can't do that shit. All I do is just put myself out there, and hopefully in the end, good things happen.
Yeah.
So I'll do that. Now there's other people out there who do the networking and kiss the ass and say all the right things and suck all the right dick. Did I say that? Sorry. Let me take that back. Let me rewind that. But so they're going to move up in the world faster. But I'm not really worried about that. I'm just going to put myself out there and try to put out good content. And look, some people are never going to like my personality. Some people are just going to hate me. But as long as most people like me, I'm good. So I'm good.
Awesome, man. Michael, it was amazing talking to you, and thanks so much for coming onto my podcast. How can people reach out to you and find you?
It was a real pleasure, man. Let's do this again sometime. And you got to call into my show.
Will do.
Montero on Boxing. So you can find me, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, everything. Montero on Boxing. Just look for me. You'll find me.
Thank you, sir. And good luck to you.
Thank you. And same to you.
Thank you so much. Will do.